So I was asked this question by one of the students, and I thought it'd be good to answer the question because I do get this question asked a lot. Let me just read the question. It says, in Madinah Book 3, in Dars 19, it mentions the ayah from Surah As-Saf, ذَلِكَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ. Ustad Asif said, Al-Fawz isn't badal, but it's khabar. So this here is khabar rather than badal. So my question is, why isn't it badal or substitute? So why isn't it a substitute here? Because after ism ishara, if there's a definite noun, that definite is usually badal. Okay, so it's a very good question. I'll be answering this inshallah. Now, so this is not in all cases. Usually you'll have a definite noun after ism ishara would be badal, but not always the case. Also, another point to note, and this is important in the discussion, is that the khabar is usually indefinite, but not always the case either. So, but the question is, does a badal always come after ism ishara? No, it doesn't. Now, how do we differentiate if definite noun after ism ishara is a badal or it's not a badal? Let's take an example, inshallah. Okay, what I've done here is two sentences which are exactly the same in Arabic. هذا الرجل and هذا الرجل. And in English, I've put two different translations. So in the first sentence, and this is usually the case, and this is what we're taught in book 1, is that if you have an ism ishara, like هذا, demonstrative pronoun, followed by a noun which is definite, that this will be badal. This will be mubtada, and this will be badal, and then you would need a khabar coming after it. So for example, let's say that this rajul was generous. So we'll just هذا الرجل كريم. For example, you and somebody else are talking to each other about a certain individual, and for example, you don't know who this man is, and then this man, say, walks in, and the person you're talking to wants to show you who this person is. So he will say هذا الرجل. This is the man that we're just talking about. This is him. So in this case, الرجل would be the khabar, because you're talking about a specific person, and when you're saying هذا, you're giving information about هذا. And for example, if you wanted to describe this person, let's say the person you're talking to was saying that he's a generous man, so he would say هذا الرجل الكريم. And that would be definite, karimu. Now, a question is, how do we know that a word is a badal? It's quite simple. In this example here, the first one, the first sentence, هذا and الرجل are talking about the same person. هذا and الرجل. So for example, if we took one of these out, it would still give a complete sentence. If we said, for example, هذا كريم, this or this person or this is generous. Now, calling somebody هذا, usually it's not a respected way to call somebody by calling them this. So هذا كريم, this is generous. Similarly, if we took away هذا, it would say الرجل كريم. That's a complete sentence. The man is generous. So regardless of which word you use, it would make a complete sentence. In this case, we're using both, and this is the badal, or the substitute of هذا. Now in this case, الرجل is khabar, so we can't take this out, because this is the man, and then we just give him the attribute of being generous, al-Karim. So this is the generous man. So in this example, there is no badal. There's a mubtada, khabar, and this is a sifa for the khabar. And we're talking about a specific person here, ar-rajul. Now getting back to the example, ذَلِكَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ, which we translate as that is the great success. Now why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala call it the success? And if you read this verse, I think it's verse 12 of Surah As-Saf, it's talking about being admitted into Jannah. And he says ذَلِكَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ, to signify that this is the only success. Meaning if you don't get Jannah, there's absolutely no success. No matter how much success you have in this world, if you don't have Jannah in the next world, that's considered as loss. You have failed. So that is the great success and the only success. That's what it implies there. Now let's give an example in the Qur'an. And the two sections is this part here and this here. Now this first part here we've covered already, ذَلِكَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ, and not surprisingly the verses before it are talking about paradise. So we covered this part. The first part is تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ. Tilka is feminine, singular, and tilka is for al-ba'id as well, like ذَلِكَ, but the feminine form. So the reason why the singular is used is because it's talking about hudud. So hudud is the plural, it means the limits, and that's mudaf ilayh, hududullahi, and it's saying tilka hududullah. In this case, hudud, there's no al. So why isn't there any al? It's because it's mudaf and there's mudaf ilayh. So it's definite by idafa, by being ascribed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is definite as well. So this would be the khabar. So tilka, ism ishara, and we have a definite noun following it, that is khabar. In the first example, there's a word with a sifa that's been described with a sifa. In this case, there's idafa, hududullah. And so this demonstrates examples of a definite noun coming after ism ishara, which is not badal, but actually a khabar. Now just a point about the language used here. Why was the ism ishara lil ba'id for distance used in both cases? So here we have tilka, so why wasn't hadhihi used? And here we have dhalika, why wasn't hadha used? Now what scholars of balagha and Quranic commentary at tafsir say, so the reason why the demonstrative pronoun for distance was used to indicate the far distance. In this case, hududullah, the limits of Allah, so they're distant and we shouldn't come anywhere near them. And also we consider them great in the sense that the one who made these limits is great, because they are the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now in ذَلِكَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ, ذَلِكَ is talking about Jannah, which is something that's very lofty and far off. It doesn't come cheap. It's not something that's close to you. You need to work for it, and that's what's indicated by using ذَلِكَ. So I hope that answers your question. وصلى الله سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.
أشرقت نفسي بنور من فؤادي حينما رددت يا رب العباد.